The Throwback by Orlin Frederick. From Weird Tales, October 1926. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Read by Dale Grothman. A Short Tale of Horror. The Throwback by Orlin Frederick. Hines was a corporal in our own battery. None of his buddies ever thought about him, or if they did, it was only to wonder why he had been made. He was extremely round-shouldered, heavy-set, awkwardly muscled. His hands were large and broad, his hair dark, his face cruel. But it is almost impossible to describe his eyes. They were tiny black discs, shallow, and yet too deep to penetrate, shifting, yet darting queer glances directly at one. At times they seemed quiet, never gentle or kind, but docile, like those of a great beast raised in captivity. But how they flashed when the madness was aroused! There was a peculiar brute insanity which so entwined itself with his nature that it was inseparable. His eyes flashed with the venom of the pacing tiger when his will was crossed, and their glance sent shivers of dread, of unspeakable horror, up and down one's spine. It was not the ordinary fear of danger. I am too accustomed to facing death to notice that. But the intangible loathing, a horror which paralyzed all motion, a voice from ages past which spoke and held one in its grip, while some great terror approached. No definite form of dread took precedence, yet there was all the grinding torture of crunching bones, the sound of ripping flesh, the smell of warm blood. Time and again I have thanked my lucky stars that I never met Hines alone on the open prairie in the dead of night. His eyes held a powerful hypnotism, which would have made me powerless even to shriek. I avoided him as I would the beasts of the jungle if unarmed. He was of the species that strikes for the love of cruelty, and that devastated Belgium. Somehow Hines made friends of a few. I suppose they were satellites of his stronger will. Perhaps they were drawn to him by that blood tie of their kind which ages had not broken, love of cruelty. His parents emigrated from Prussia in 1895, actuated no doubt by the same restlessness which caused the throwback of centuries in their firstborn. What irony that he was to fight against the very land which lent asylum to his forebears. We were stationed at a western post when an incident occurred which I have never forgotten. The mystery of the affair has never been solved officially, but to me it is clear as the noonday sun. Perhaps I am wrong, but I think not. I have no evidence other than my eyes and that strange fourth sense which held me in Hines' power when his spells came on. He had gone out sometime in the afternoon. It was Sunday. He returned before 11 and turned in. I saw him as he entered the tent. His eyes flamed at the moment with a greenish light, like those of a wolverine in the shadows of the woods. His hands trembled as he reached for the flap to draw it back, and his lips parted like a dog snarling over a bone. Then he grinned. That grin haunts me yet. He was like a lynx hard put for food when it has smelled fresh blood. The following morning we learned that there had been a murder, supposedly by some maddened beast. A man's body was found on the open plain a mile from the nearest habitation. No one had heard any sound of struggle during the night, but the body was torn apart, ripped open by great cruel claws. Or was it hands? There were marks of teeth upon the neck where it, or he, had sucked the warm blood. The flesh was bruised from head to foot, as if beaten mercilessly with a club. Hines was there with the rest of the boys, to help if need be, but he seemed uninterested. He watched the distant hills more intently than he did the helpers. When he gazed at the blood-spattered earth, he seemed neither surprised nor sympathetic, but, or did I imagine it, seemed rather to gloat over the carnage. It was as if he had seen it all before. He was exceedingly docile that day, and during the next 2 months he seemed content. But gradually the old rambling growl came back to his throat, and the mysterious look to his eyes. He took to wandering alone again at night. The beast was stalking its prey. Weeks later the sheriff, he told me with the utmost horror, found a coyote killed fiendishly and left on the mountainside. It was in the same condition as the body had been, but no one ever connected the two incidents. It was the bloodlust again, but as it was satiated, it left him quiescent for a time. He had no soul. He died in France, and were I to guess, he was grinning when he died, for he lay in a pool of blood upon the battlefield in the Argonne. The end of The Throwback by Orlin Frederick.